All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. One Man, One Tree. And here we got a special guest, Mr. Phil Hunt. Phil, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I mean, despite the world being on fire.
We finally got in this thing. How's the pulse in the Midwest? I feel like people is the first time they're understanding about like the Midwest a little bit.
The Midwest. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not there. I'm in New York, but
Right.
uh, I can see my friends and family, and it's about the same as we are. To where it's just like really in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
You're
But
supposed to be 6 feet
and
away from us, and you're gonna choke us.
that's the crazy thing too. The whole crazy thing about the whole thing is people are like seeing it, but I'm just like, it's always been wild like this. Like it's
Yeah, and
always
it
been
really
wild like
it
this.
makes you. I'm just tired of people blaming it on Trump. Like that's almost giving him too much credit to where it's like he didn't invent racism. You know, he's like Diddy. He invented the remix, but
And
the
sometimes I don't
original
even
version.
right. Sometimes I feel like Donald Trump is just like he's like that football player that you know you're gonna win, so you just waiting for the other team to mess up. So
Yeah,
he's like, I'm just gonna stay right
man.
here, hold the ball. Somebody's gonna fumble.
Yes, that's really what it is. All Biden had to do is shut the fuck up, and he just keeps talking. It's like that time you're out on a date with a lady, and when she walks in and she goes, "Nice place." All you need to do from there is just shut up.
I
Whole lot of shutting up.
feel like
Tip your waitress well, compliment her. That's it.
his team didn't warn him who he was dealing with. I feel like his team set him up to be all like, this guy's tough, so you need to be on defensive. I'm like, you had it easy. All you had to do is answer the question.
Did you ever watch The Wire?
Yeah, I only got like 3 seasons when they start bringing the kids in.
Trump is Omar. He's a side game. And like what's his face? The guy on The Wire, what is it? Oh, Stringer Bell, that's played by big sexy guy. What's his name?
Big, big sexy.
Idris Elba. Big
Big
sexy guy.
that's
Kind of
big sexy.
yeah,
The
when
British,
you win
yeah, the British.
that's he won the award for it, so I didn't make that up. He is what he is. Anyway, when you win that award, or when you watch that show, he tells Avon Barksdale at some point, like, look, you're the big guy, you're in charge of taking orders from you, but this shit ain't making us no money.
Right.
We're supposed to be drug dealers, and we're over here chasing around this guy. And that's what I feel like Trump is, to where it's like the language they're using isn't even proper. Technically, you're supposed to be winning over the American people. And they're just like, nah, we got to defeat Trump. Like it's the NBA finals.
Yeah, they're just like, we got a common enemy. I was like, that's still negating what's happening out here, what people really want. I feel like he's doing the same
Right.
Hillary Clinton thing. Like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'm better than him.
Yeah.
Like,
And going on the Breakfast Club, which is just like, dude, I watch the Breakfast Club every morning. I find it quite entertaining, but that's all it is.
yeah,
It's
I just like
entertaining.
he set him up. He set him up right inside there. He wanted to get a sound bite, and everybody's like, who are you to question?
Oh, you're going to get a soundbite, but you're more likely to become a meme than you are the mayor.
One of this guy at my church, he works for the Biden can't, what do you call it, the fundraise, is it called no, their
campaign,
yeah,
what
the campaign thing. And I'm just like, man, people hate Joe Biden. People don't, even when President Obama was the president, people always thought Joe talked too much.
Yeah, he's just a sidekick, and it's like, no one really likes you, right? Like, I hate to tell you, it's kind of that Hillary syndrome all over again, where it's just like people like Bill, and even a lot of people now.
People stop liking Bill. Yeah, since there's information, people are like, yeah, hold up, Bill.
Which I'm not a big fan of judging yesterday people by today's standards. The only bell I can shoot Biden is, I mean, we're about the same age. We were children when, these mass incarceration laws and stuff went into effect and locked up all of our cousins, basically, and uncles. And then you got to sit at some open mic and hear some white guy yell about, because they don't have dads. And it's like, but let's talk about why we don't have dads, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's not just throw that out there without also explaining that these laws were set up in that way. But for Biden, it's judging yesterday's people by today's standards, because it's like, well, if you're 25, you don't really remember crack the way we remember it, to where it was like, it was a huge problem, you know?
But
And
do you feel like that today's standards is it's always about your past? Look at straight up Jimmy Fallon just apologized for something he did
yeah,
20 years ago.
and that was ridiculous. But that's what I'm saying. I think hindsight doesn't really tell the story. It removes the context of that story. So even when you're talking to Biden, you got to remember all our parents voted for Clinton, and Biden was just a senator or whatever he was, and he wrote the law. So he does get the blame, but it's like, look, we had crack, people getting murdered for starter jackets. Teen pregnancy was at an all-time high. If I was Biden, I would have taken a crack baby on the Breakfast Club with me and been like, this is why. Like, this is why I did what I did, you know. What I did was wrong, but also look at this kid. He can't make eye contact.
He kind of was like buffing himself up, like, yo, check my record, man. Look what I've done. And then there's like, oh.
That's what was funny, you know. 2 minutes in, Charlemagne's just not even 2 minutes in, 10 seconds. Charlemagne's like, well, I've been critical of you. And Biden goes, I know. And I got to tell you, you don't know me. And it's like, are you T.I. all of a sudden? You don't know me?
You don't know me.
You know, in the first 10 seconds. And then it ends with him telling us, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. And it's like what?
We don't like your jokes. Nah.
Yeah, it was a bad just like let the comics do the joke, which odd enough, they treat the comics like they're politicians, you know. Like you said with Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, do you remember Don Rickles? Do you remember that dude, Don Rickles?
Yeah.
You know, at the end of his life, he was getting a hard time because he kept doing them old jokes and people weren't down for him.
Yeah, that's funny.
I think he did President Obama something. And he goes, I didn't know President Obama's here. Is he going to do the floors later? And people are like, what did you just...
Wow, yeah. And I mean, it really doesn't bother me from someone of that age. Someone who's 19 would have to explain to me that joke. But someone who's 75, hey, man, have at it, you know. If that's the shit you were doing in the Catskills, then fair enough, I guess. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of judging yesterday's people by today's standards. Like I said, it removes context a lot of times. So even like with Jimmy Fallon, it's like, you know, in the larger context of today, blackface, you know, might, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, obviously it had a historical past. I'm sure you know that.
Right.
You know, all the way back to what do I want to say? Like vaudeville and them not letting black performers perform. But in the modern context, when I have to scale it beside seeing a video of a cop choke somebody, it's like, hey Jimmy, you off the hook, man. Like probably don't do that shit again and don't do it in my face.
Right.
And we don't have a problem. I don't have time to be looking back because I'm looking at right now. And it's like, you know, no one's dead because he wore blackface.
Sometimes bad timing is like, y'all should have been did this. Y'all should have did this back in 2000.
Yeah, like that anti-lynching bill or whatever they came out with last year. And it was just like, really?
That's what we're doing right now.
It took you until right now. And yeah, talk about horrible timing. That whole Doja Cat thing is kind of crazy. Because I know she wishes she could be in those chat rooms right now. Like, if she could log on to Confederate chat right now, it would just cleanse her soul.
Sometimes you gotta. I think that a lot of us don't realize, like mixed people gotta. You know, they're a lot of confused people. You know,
yeah, definitely.
I don't understand her saying that, but I understand her being like mad lost. But we forget her.
You know where I'll never say it's right, but exactly. And you bring up a great point of like, well, who's her audience? I mean, when I saw a girl holding a cheeseburger, singing about moo in front of a cow like a green screen while twerking, the twerking was pretty good. The first thing I say is, wow, this girl's high as fuck. Like, so from there, you know, nothing you really can do disappoints me if that's your entry point to the world, you know, knowing who you are.
I think sometimes as an artist,
yeah,
right, go ahead.
Nah, she just looked high as fuck in the video, even of her in the incel chats. I'm like, oh, she looks high. And then, every year we lose 2 or 3 artists. Like we lost Mac Miller last year and Juice World to overdoses. And then, we make these artists apologize as if they take drug tests. And it's like, we're in the art world. We know half these comedians are high as fuck,
Geeked up.
Yeah, off weed brownies and stuff. So it's just like, no, Jimmy Fallon, you don't owe me an apology. It probably was funny as fuck when you wrote it, and you were high on that weed brownie.
Right, doing Chris Rock. Juicy J apologized too. You saw that?
Oh, did he do some blackface?
No.
I mean, I guess blackface to the second power.
Juicy J, he apologized. He said he apologized to all the kids if I influenced you to do drugs or like pop pills and stuff like that. Because 3 6 Mafia, those were the boys that were heavy on it. They were like the first ones in like rap to like really talk about hardcore drugs throughout early 90s.
Non-drinkers, non-snorters. That was the intro. So yeah, they didn't even let the beat come on.
They didn't like the beat.
You non-snorters got 5 seconds to get out of here. So yeah. But see, I think, like I said, even, when you critique art at a certain point, like I said, treating us like politicians. Joe Biden shouldn't be allowed, to participate in incel chats and then come back to us. But Doja Cat, and then even when you talk about 3 6 Mafia, it's like, that's art, 3 6, like you got past the 3 6s, that means the devil. So that's exactly what I expect to hear when I turn on the speakers. So you non-snorters, you got 5 seconds, get out of here.
And I was like, y'all apologize for that. You should apologize all the fights we got in because of all that 3 6 Mafia.
Yeah.
Get him.
Yeah, tear the club up. Like
tear the club up.
This club does not have insurance. Do not tear this club up. Like, I wouldn't have even let DJs play that,
DJs used to play when they want to go home. That's when they used to start it. So right. It's time to go home, they start playing it.
But yeah, you're right about music. And like, people said that was J. Cole's whack album, KOD, which was about overdosing. And then he makes that album and they're like, it's whack, it's this, it's that, it's boring. And Mac Miller dies, and then Juice WRLD dies. And then everyone's like, hey, let's talk about drug usage in music. And it's like, I think that guy just tried to last year, and you guys told him it was whack. So,
dude, it's such a reverse world, and I feel like we live in a society where people don't get second chances. And I think
that makes it hard to admit.
Right, but Doja Cat, the reason why people get upset, because number one, she's a black woman, and her number one song was with another black woman. So it's just like, you don't even like us?
But I think it's by default that she's a black woman, and it still doesn't make her any less black. It just means she makes some questionable choices. And like I've been trying to say this whole time, we're trying to hold her accountable, but this Joe Biden guy might be our president. So it's like, well, what's more harmful and what should I really be worried about? A 24-year-old girl in an incel chat twerking, and like I said, high out her fucking mind, And then I rolled over the next morning after reading her apology that her management typed out, and Azalea Banks is there talking about Dave Chappelle, and it's just like, oh,
she looked high out of her mind. She looked high out of her mind too.
I know too much,
Skin pills.
Jimi Hendrix, all the way back to Jimi Hendrix, OD, was it Philip Seymour Hoffman, the actor?
Yeah, he died too. Heroin overdose.
Like I said, Juice WRLD, Mac Miller, and it's like, yo, artists be high as fuck. So let's not act like we're surprised about the overdose, and then let's also not act like these people are completely sane. They're not.
Do you think?
I question my own sanity.
Do you think Joe will win? What's your prediction for the election?
Man, I think Trump is too strong. He's too, like what they say about comedians, like finding your voice.
Oh, once he found his crowd,
he has his voice, man. And
he's going at Twitter now. He's going at the CEOs of Twitter.
See, and which is weird because it's just like, dude, we're in the middle of a pandemic and entire cities burning. You want to talk about Twitter?
Censorship.
True, which is
I really think that Donald Trump has found the key to this country is really to get the counties. He's like, let the big cities keep the cities, but if I get a whole bunch of counties, and he made a good point when I'm not agreeing with him, but he said, like, he goes, all these big cities with police brutality, he goes, they're blue states.
Yeah.
Those are blue cities. He's like, it's their problem. It's the mayor. It's that Amy
hilarious
or whatever.
Yeah, it's like Bernie Madoff, you know. Like,
right.
Why pull a bank heist? I'll just take a penny from everybody. And it's like, what? Then you start checking your account. You're like, he did 2 cents a month. He was taking.
And you don't even care about that either. You're like, oh, it's just 2 cents. What is 2 cents?
Right.
Who's checking on
you add up everybody in the world. But you bring up a good point. And again, I think Trump is this weird side game because people aren't even looking at the trends. And when you really look at the trends of the last 4 elections, it's someone new. Now, granted, Obama is different because he's like smart and he also had political experience. But this new generation, you know, we want somebody new, is what I'm seeing on all sides, you know. Obama was new. And
George Bush,
and if you have a long track record, well, he stole. So
yeah,
but I'm saying, like, our parents on either side were kind of cool with these legacy acts where it's like, oh, you've got your family name,
right.
So surely you know what you're doing. They trusted that. And we're like opposite, where it's like, no, you know, we started with Obama of like, look, barely political experience. What did he have? Like 7 years as a senator or whatever. So he didn't have a long track record to be judged of voting for the wrong things. To where, you know, I talked about everybody on the Breakfast Club, but it's like, you know, Kamala Harris went on there, Andrew Gillum, Andrew Yang, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. It's everyone.
I would never go. That seems like
exactly. It's everybody who loses.
Right. So like I got hot sauce in my bag. Everybody's like, what?
Nah, fam, we ain't buying it. If she just said I got mayo in my bag, we don't buy it. I bet you do. See, she's just being herself.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that the Breakfast Club is really our generation. These younger kids are on something else.
Right. And it's also entertainment. So it's just like, well, do black candidates go on Kiss FM to try to get the white vote? Like, no, they're not. Morning radio's for shenanigans, you know?
Right.
Like I said, you're more likely to become a meme than the mayor, you know? Look at the hot memes, you know? Soulja Boy. Tekashi 6ix9ine, you know, so you're putting yourself almost in the arena with them to become a meme, and that's why they've all lost. Like, you know, that's a good entertainment platform.
Right.
People still conflate, you know, hip hop with black, and it's like, look, that's a good hip hop forum. It's the #1 show, you know. So, shouts out to Charlamagne. It's a great show, but it's like it's not a political platform. Rap is anti-politics. I mean,
I think that people want the respect. I think when you build that to being the voice, because it's self-entitled until people realize, like, no, I like this. And then people are just like, no, I gotta gain his respect.
Man, it ain't even no breakfast at the Breakfast Club. So you can't really go there looking to make a whole lot of sense to a generation that doesn't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about you, and I watch them every morning. And I'm not even voting. I didn't vote last time. I'm not voting this time because I see George Floyd. I voted for Obama because, you know, he was black and he was educated, and what he represented on a moral level just felt good. But the rest of this, you know, I really lost hope watching, you know, black kids be murdered in the streets while he was the president, you know. I felt like it was some type of cognitive dissonance within my own brain of like, wow, not to blame Obama because he did a great fucking job. And just like I was saying earlier about Trump, Obama didn't invent racism. So I don't expect him to end 400 years of oppression in 8 years, you know. And he tried, you know, he exonerated a lot of nonviolent criminals and different stuff. But yeah, this generation, I think, like I was saying, it has a bad habit of judging yesterday's standards or today's people by yesterday's standards. And for that reason, I think it's always going to go to people who have less experience. So all those guys, that went on, the Kamala Harris's, the Bernie Sanders, they all had to answer these questions of like, well, what about this?
Right. What if, I know since you're not voting, but if you were to vote, where would you be registered to vote at?
Oh, I'm registered in New York, so.
Okay, so your vote is blue. It's crazy about New York though, because you're originally from Indiana, correct?
Indianapolis, yeah. I lived in Georgia 8 years too, so that's probably where the accent comes from. But
how long?
Yeah.
Let's go back. Where were you born?
I was born in Kansas, but then I was pretty much raised in Indiana. I was there till I was 2, so I don't remember much. And then, but my father was military.
What type of household were you coming from? If you're military, mom and dad, or what type of household?
Yeah, two-parent household. Military, Air Force, so lower middle class. Middle low class.
Enlisted officer.
He was I guess you could say that.
Stripes.
It wasn't like he was high up or nothing. We was E5ing. That's what we was doing.
Oh, enlisted, yeah.
We was E5ing. I only remember that because it was on my ID card.
He was a tech sergeant.
There you go. Yeah, what were you in?
My dad was in the military. My dad was in the Air Force too. So I'm an Air Force, just like you. That's what I said. When you say Air Force, I'm like, yeah, we're the same.
Yeah, dope. Yeah, we same cut. That's cool. That's how you wound up I was in Valdosta, Georgia, for 9/11, Moody Air Force Base. So
I was in Tokyo during 9/11.
Wow.
We were in Japan.
How was that?
Down the base, they shut. I remember we weren't in school. I remember waking up in the morning and my mom just looking at me. I was like, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "There's a terrorist attack." I was like, "What is that?" And then we kept watching on the TV, and then we went outside. And like every military, police were on Delta lockdown. Everybody's on Humvees outside. And then
same in Georgia.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, man? I had a friend move to Japan, Okinawa, I think. Was the Air Force Base over there?
Like an island.
Was that where you were?
I was on the mainland. So Okinawa is like okay, let me give an example. Okinawa is like Puerto Rico. It has its own culture and everything else. They don't consider themselves Japanese. They consider themselves Okinawans, or like Hawaiians. They're Americans.
I like
Hawaiians.
Like Texans.
Right.
Like, I'm a Texan first, American second. And you're like, okay, buddy. They major in Texas and minor in American.
They're the only country that doesn't try to speak English.
Interesting. And that is interesting, man. In New York, I work as a cabbie, and I pick up people from all over the world, and they speak English damn near better than we do. And it's just like, wow. So to see somebody that doesn't is just like, you don't give a fuck, do you?
Dude,
it's almost cool.
Japan's the only country in the world that has a Disney World, and it doesn't even fall underneath Disney World policy.
Hilarious.
It's they bought it like McDonald's. Like you can use. I used to work at Disney World, so you can get into any Disney World in the world except the one in Tokyo. They're like, no, we're going.
That's hilarious. They're like, look, we're over here doing our own thing.
Freaking had Dragon Ball Z in the 80s, and then it came over here in like 2000.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. We were calling it. We were calling it Japanimation, and
we sure were.
I see the kids now, and they're like anime, and I'm just like, Japanimation. It's like
a big Japanese logo that would pop up, right?
Yeah, it's like how people can't update their terms, the races, and they're like Oriental, and it's like, I've been saying it for so long, I don't know how to stop saying it.
Change it up.
Gotta switch it up, man. Gotta update that vernacular. So
for them, the whole Japanese culture is just like they're light years ahead. I was in Japan, like asking about Dragon Ball Z, and all the kids are like, "Why? My parents watch that." I was like, "What?"
Wow.
Like, you want to know how it ends? I was like, how it ends? Like, it's over? I'm like, yeah, it's over. The whole series.
Well, what's funny is what they're ahead on, and then at the same time, Ja Rule's touring over there, and it's just like, oh, okay, so we're taking your.
It's like 90s hip hop. When you go there, like everyone's wearing FUBU and they're break dancers. Some dude battled me in the
Right.
club one time to dance. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. This guy must be a breakdancer.
Yeah, you almost got served.
Right.
That's what
Straight
happened.
forward.
You
Well, what was
B2K there.
were you big family, small family? Is it a lot of siblings?
Five kids. So my
Golly.
mom and dad had five, and I'm the middle of five. So
Well, what
you
was that
know,
like as the middle? What's the age range from you? What's the
we're
oldest?
all 2 years apart. So
Golly.
I had an older brother and an older sister, and then I have two younger sisters. So and we're all 2 years apart. So we were like, the Brady Bunch or the Jackson Five. So
That's,
everybody was like, "This isn't the army. This is the whole basketball lineup coming."
you notice that about military families. They're always big. There's always like those big black military families when they come in. Like, man, there's more of them.
Yeah, because that income is steady, man. It may be
Really?
E5, but it's steady,
Health insurance.
Health insurance, yeah. TRICARE was good to me.
So did you guys move like every 3 to 4 years? Like how long?
It's weird. I went to 10 different schools, but a lot of it was me backtracking, if that makes sense.
Not
Like I
really.
remember third grade, like, your dad gets stationed somewhere, and my mom was the type, she wouldn't want to stay alone. So she'd go back home with family to Indianapolis. So
Hmm.
I remember leaving in third grade around Christmas and coming back around like April, and the teacher doing like this. All right, stand outside. You're going to come in. I'm going to announce that a new student has arrived. I walk into the classroom, and this black girl, Brianna, I still remember this like it was yesterday. She looks up and goes, "He was already here." And it was just like, that's true. She's got a point. I was already here. I am not technically a new student.
So when you went back home to Indianapolis, what was that like? Because being black middle class is completely different than, going to school being like mixed together with everyone else in your socioeconomic.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Well, it didn't feel that different. The only difference for me was race because, they say about the military that it's one large social experiment, right? So
Right.
it's really a bunch of poor kids, together in the neighborhood. So a lot of the kids still have the same mentality as they had coming from, whatever inner city they came from.
Hmm.
So the only way it was culture shock for me was I went from, South Georgia, which is practically Florida, Valdosta, what they call Florida, right on the line of Florida and Georgia.
Hmm.
And going from a predominantly white, like country school to the point where, Lowndes High School, they would say like racist stuff. And then you look around like, I don't know if these are the white guys you want to fight, the corn fed white boys, and they outnumber you. They were doing shit like leaving ropes in the trees. And then I went to Tech
When
High
you were
School, which
when
is,
you were in high school, you were seeing like nooses and stuff like that?
yeah, because it's the deep South. So it's like, as the saying goes, the South goes south. So
Wait,
they outnumber the black kids.
In Indianapolis it was like that?
No, in Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Oh,
And
yeah.
then going to inner city Indianapolis, and I went to the largest high school in Indianapolis. So Tech High School, Arsenal Technical High School, if you technically want to know the technical name. But yeah, going there, and then now it's predominantly black, and there's like 3 white kids walking around. It's just like, oh shit. So it was like
How was that
opposites.
ability though? How did that switch when you went from being a predominantly white school to predominantly black school? Did you feel more accepted, or do you feel? Because I think sometimes we could be harder on each other.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely a little bit harder on each other than we need to be, but it's out of love.
Love, it's
You
that.
know
But
what
I'm
I
saying
mean?
it's love. But if you're used to being inside a white school where they're very like,
Right. Well, like I said, Lowndes High School was, I'd say, if I had to just off the top of my head, I'd say it was probably, you know, anywhere between 3/4 and half, somewhere right in the middle of whatever that would be, black. So not quite half black, but there were enough of us walking around that it wasn't like it was a white high school. It just was predominantly white, if that makes sense. And then going to pretty much an all black school in inner city Indianapolis, where, like I said, the white kids were like the odd ones of like, who's this white guy? Like there were 5 of them and you can name them all.
That's crazy because when we think of Indianapolis, I don't think of like a metropolis of like a lot of
City.
black people. Yeah, but you're saying it's
Yeah, it's an odd place for the reason that the inner city, Indianapolis, it's like you said, we're saying earlier, it votes blue and there's some mixed races. It's not quite as diverse as New York, obviously, but, it's blacks, Mexicans, white people. And then the second you get outside of the city, some people say, depending on what you Google, that the Klan was started in Indianapolis or in Indiana, rather, So it's between Indiana and Tennessee. Google flip-flops depending on what you specifically say surrounding it, But I said that to paint the picture of, once you get outside of Indianapolis, that's what the city is. It's a red state.
it's like New York.
But a
New
blue
York's a red state. Once you get out of the city, once you get to like Long Island and you get to this other place, it's a red state as well.
Oh yeah, Staten Island. You know what time it is. That's where all the cops live. So yeah, it is. It's odd like that because even, our vice president, Mike Pence, is what our governor.
Yeah.
So he came straight from us. So that gives you an idea of how progressive outside of New York is, or outside of Indianapolis is, And then you got Mayor Pete.
The whole time you never see, you just saw black dudes on the court. So when you saw the Indiana Pacers, were you like, I was like, oh, where's Indiana?
Yeah, and then we don't have a whole lot of, we don't even have rappers. So it's just like, Larry Bird. Yeah, we got comedian. We got Mike Epps. One. Mike Epps, and yeah, that's pretty much it on a national scale. Miss Pat is popping right now, but she's from Atlanta but lives in Brownsburg, Indiana.
Yeah.
So yeah, Miss Pat is good peoples, and she's out there, holding it down. But she's a transplant to us, but we'll claim her because we don't have shit else to claim. Michael Jackson, no, that's a pretty big
Gary, Indiana. The whole Jackson
that's
is in Indiana.
That's a pretty big brag, but it's been a while, So
and Freddie Gibbs is from Indiana.
From Gary. So yeah. And if just like any big city to where Brooklyn dudes don't like Bronx dudes, so Gary dudes don't like Indianapolis dudes, and Indianapolis dudes don't like Gary dudes. But then you get outside of the city and it's like no one cares.
Right. No one cares.
No one cares about your weird little beef.
Your city rivalry. I think that's when we moved back to America. I was like, what? We're not supposed to like these people. They're all the same. What was your parents like? Were they strict? Were you come up in a strict household with 5 kids? And in the military, was it like a strict?
Not really. They would watch Comic View and stuff. And I think one day my parents realized like, oh, he's paying way too much attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some dude on there and he was saying like, what was he saying? Comic View was wild, but the dude was saying,
Molly was there.
He was like, right. Well, what's crazy is everybody remembers the stars from there, but then it's those other guys that it was like, this was just one of those random other guys, on like a Tuesday night, I'm supposed to be doing homework, and they just got BET on in the background, and the dude was like, hey ladies, spell dick, and they're all D-I-C-K. He's like, now how come you let it go out your mouth, but you won't let it go in? And it's just like, uh-oh. I'm being
turn it off. Turn it off.
Yeah, I remember my mom, kind of tapping my dad, like, don't be laughing. That boy is picking up all that stuff. And it's like, you're giving it away. So yeah, we were, they weren't too strict. I was able to have my fun and, get suspended like the rest of the kids. You take your lumps. That's how you learn.
What's the dynamic of your siblings? Is it like boys, girls, or all boys, mixture?
I had an older brother. He passed from cancer right before I moved to New York, so that was like a, turning point for me of like, hey, if you're going to do this comedy shit, you probably better go now, tomorrow's not promised type shit. So yeah, my older brother was 4 years older than me. He passed from cancer like almost 10 years ago. And I have an older sister who's 2 years older than me. We're all 2 years apart. And then now I have 2 younger sisters too. So there's 4 of us now. But yeah, we were all pretty close, you know. It was one of those households that like can't get, you know, you can't get people off the top of you, you know, basically. You're never alone.
What's the love? You had raising a lot of love. You had a lot of love growing up inside your house.
Yeah, like the Waynes, you know, usually when there's a lot of kids, you know, it becomes basically a funny off, you know, everybody's trying to be funnier than the next person at dinner. Like my little sisters are hilarious, you know.
When do you
But it's, you know, military too, so it's like moving to New York alone. It's just like, well, we've kind of always been that way, you know, kind of off to our own island, you know.
So when you did you play any sports growing up? Were you more athletic or?
Played basketball a lot, you know, until I remember getting cut, you know, in 10th grade. I'm like, yeah, man, you're too fucking slow to be that short. Get out of here. And, you know, but mainly I played like on a lot of Air Force Base teams, you know, the traveling teams and different stuff, you know. High school was very competitive.
You just hang out with your boys the whole time and travel around.
Yeah, basically, you know, I played a lot of basketball. It gave me that work ethic, you know, that competitive thing that you need for comedy, you know. A lot of comedians like to, oh, well, this is just art. And it's like, no, I'm trying to destroy you.
It's like when we get on that stage.
I don't want anyone to remember your name. I want them to say to you, and you are okay too.
No, the worst thing is when they walk up and they say, "Oh, I loved you," and you, that was good. That was whoa, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm going
for.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for every time, you know. And then, you know, all the artsy types, they're like, it's not a competitive thing, you know, I just exist in my own space. And it's like, good luck, motherfucker. I watched Bernie Mac on Kings of Comedy. He was trying to destroy. There's a reason he went last.
They said back in the day, Steve used to go last. They said Steve was the one that used to go last.
Steve had the most fame, but Steve was a great host. So it's really a matter of like, you know, it's like playing point guard or playing center, to where it's
people
like,
sleep on Steve.
We're all out here doing our job.
Right, people sleep on him. He's funny.
Steve is dope. He's highly relatable, you know, and I've learned things from him. I think he was the one that said in comedy, you know, you can only be one level above your audience, meaning you can only dress one level above them or below them. But if you're like two levels, like the guy who comes into the bar show with a suit, then it's just like, that's three levels above your audience, man. Not unless you're going to spend 3 or 4 minutes talking about the suit and how dumb you look.
And when you look at the Kings of Comedy, how they all aged consistently, you know, Bernie Mac, rest in peace, but if you think about D.L. Hughley has slowly grown because everyone was effing with about his set, and then when you look at behind the scenes, he goes, he just made an hour to HBO, so he was really doing newer material the whole time.
But that's what I mean, like, you know, everybody kind of played their role in all those styles. I mean, Cedric's so underrated, but all those styles, you know, are perfect. Like they complemented each other. So I think for even people to look at it like, oh, well, this guy killed that guy or that guy wasn't that funny. It's like DL was the first one out. You know what I mean? So if you look at it like that, it's like that warm-up guy, basically, where Steve's hosting.
Guy Torrey used to be on the tour.
Yeah, I remember that. And yeah, they, you know, got that lineup right real quick. They got that lineup nice and tight. And all those guys are around the same age. It worked out perfect, you know, because you switch any one of those guys and that show ain't the same, you know. And then you add Spike Lee and Walter Latham. It's like the rest is history, man.
It's the first like docu comedy series.
But I definitely feel like we need those platforms, you know, again, because, you know, all of them, Steve, I think, had been on Def Jam. Ced had been on Def Jam, was killing it every night, 8 o'clock on Comedy View. Cedric was the host. And Comedy View came on twice a night, you know, 8 o'clock and at 12 midnight. So it's like, if you're going to be in Black people's homes twice a week, you're going to become a huge star, you know, 6 days a week. And then DL was also.
I feel like it was a package deal, though. Like Cedric and Steve, like you respect that relationship of just like they were both funny, but they had respect for each other. Like I forgot what's the girl, the principal said
Steve
that.
Harvey show.
Yeah,
Miss
that was
Hightower. What is her
right.
name? Is it
Regina.
Regina Hall? Regina King? No.
Her name was
Wendy Raquel
Wendy
Robinson.
Raquel Robinson,
Boom.
Piggy. But she said
Yeah.
how they weren't like I think it was one of these Tyler Perry actresses, Bam. She was saying how like they had to train Steve and Cedric how to act, and they didn't know how to act, so they were just making it up on the fly the whole time, and how comfortable
Yeah.
Steve was with Ced because they have good chemistry. You can't like
Right.
chemistry they got with each other.
Yeah, they were
Remember they
perfect.
hosted the
They
BET Award?
complimented each other. Yeah. They did a whole host of stuff together, and they were talking recently about them putting it back together, and obviously, like you said earlier, R.I.P. Bernie Mac, which again, those platforms, he had killed it on Def Jam, and then those rap moguls too. People act like that doesn't matter, but it's like rap changed. There's really no moguls anymore. It's just kids uploading shit to SoundCloud. Then when it blows up, they get a deal. But
Right.
it's like, think about Bernie Mac being in How to Be a Player. That was Bill Bellamy, did Def Jam, told the booty call joke, boom. Next thing you know, Russell Simmons is like, all right, you were already on my show Def Jam. Let's do a movie, How to Be a Player. Bernie Mac's in that, So I feel like we miss out on so many levels because those rap moguls are gone. Even when you think of Kevin Hart, Dame Dash, that's his first movie. And Patrice's too. One of Patrice's big parts is that movie.
Oh, Patrice is in Paper Soldiers?
Yep. Patrice is in Paper Soldiers. So yeah, it's like
I forgot. I gotta watch it again. Paper Soldiers. I think that it's changing to the point where now it's just like they want you sort of like rapping. You just got to build your own fan base. It's just like you want like Gerard.
Definitely.
If you think about him, location being in LA the whole time. I think that Little Rel is the perfect artist that adapted with the time. I was listening to a story.
Yeah.
You think about it. He said that he came up when it was D. Ray Davis and all those other dudes, and he was a youngling out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And when they all went to LA, they were just like comics aggressive and everything else. And he invested into the next generation: Gerard Carmichael, Jamar Neighbors, Jermaine Fowler, and those brothers. He goes, that whole new wave. He goes, we're just nerds together.
Right.
Off your
And Rel,
we learn from these young comics.
Rel's story is real close to mine because he was a Midwest guy. He was in Chicago. I've even driven up weekends, and friends of mine would be doing Jokes and Notes, which was the last black comedy club in, I think, Chicago. And it closed a few years ago. But anyway, my friend was on a show doing a guest spot on the weekend, and Rel was the closer. And that's been, 10 years ago. And then I watched Rel, Hannibal was here. I was here when Hannibal was here, doing the Knit Factory. And he'd have a line around the corner, and him and Hannibal are like best friends. So
Little Rel had Hannibal open up for him. That was crazy.
Right. But Rel was Hannibal's, opener, and he was putting Rel on a lot of stuff. So, shouts out to Hannibal. The city was way different then, just the energy like Hannibal would give. Like I said, you go to the Knitting Factory on a Sunday, it'd be a fucking line around the fucking corner, man. I remember catching Rel there, and Rel even coming through Fat Baby when I did it, with Hannibal, and they're both on stage rapping. You know how random Fat Baby used to be.
Right.
So, and then, him getting on, and then, movies elevating that platform. But yeah, I like everything that Rel has done so far,
Well,
and becoming a meme. He became a meme on Get Out, and that's a huge movie. And you become a meme, and then you're a star.
He's a scene stealer. Every scene that he's in, he always has those scenes where he sucks himself in scenes.
But that's one thing that always rings true to me, that Issa Rae said about being a creative. I think I forgot what she was talking on or what show it was on, but she was talking about, these people that try to reach out to Spike Lee, and it's like you already know everybody you need to know. Because when you think of Rel being on an upstart like Jordan Peele's Get Out, that it's like, it's classic now, but 5 years ago, if I'd have told you, Little Rel's gonna be on Jordan Peele's Get Out, you'd probably go, well, who the fuck's Jordan Peele? Like, but he's the biggest producer now.
Right. being on that wave. When you
Yeah.
when you graduated high school, did you know you wanted to do stand up? Like, what age did you know, like, this is what I want to start doing? Walk me through, like, the first time, or walk me through just after graduating high school, what you were going through in your mind. College, or what do we do after high school when you graduate?
Well, I just moved back to Indianapolis, so I was just more of adjusting to being in a bigger city, and did my last 2 years of high school there. So, yeah, just adjusting to being in a bigger city, and you kind of following the footsteps of your older siblings. And then, obviously everyone's like go to school. So I took like a year almost off, and then I went to trade school. And I was like 19 working for ADT, and it was just shitty. And I was watching like grown men struggle to make their rent and pay their child support and take care of like women that they had married because they had a kid, and they were miserable. And I missed, being in class.
Well, why did you say no college? Like, what made you know, like, I'm gonna take a year off instead of going?
That just wasn't what was going on in my head. Like I missed my prom my senior year. I bought a car. Remember, I had $1,200. Bought like a '93 Grand Am. And it was just like, yo, I want to drive. I want to have a car, and do all those things. So I was more focused in that area. But somewhere in that year off, it's like, yo, I miss making people laugh at school, Because school, in a way, serves as like our first open mic,
Yeah.
The lunch table, the back of the class, the bus, and you're just cutting up. And then once you get out of school, it's like, oh, shit. I kind of miss that, I miss being able to joke with friends about shit, and cut up. So once I was like 19, and working for ADT and seeing the grind of every day, and it's like, oh, you could work your ass off for somebody and then they could just get rid of you. Indiana's an at-will state.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why build someone else's dream? So I started young, 19, 20. I remember, not being able to go in clubs. And I signed up with this one dude, and he didn't come. Me and him were supposed to go up on the same night at Crackers in Indianapolis, Crackers Comedy Club, which is a joke within itself.
Crackers is our sister comedy club in Tampa. That Side Splitters and Crackers was built by the same person.
Right. Then Mark Craycraft, don't you?
Craycraft, yeah. What's the old buddy's name? Brett Terhune? Brett.
Yeah, Brent Terhune. Yeah, started with him being funny motherfucker, man. And shouts out to Brent Terhune and all my Indiana comics. Yeah, Brent does that character. I'm trying to think of his name now. Well, he's just a redneck character. And people respond to him like he's real. And it's like, we all may be a little too invested in these arguments,
He looks the part, though. He looks the part, so nobody knows.
He does look the part, and that's back to the point of, Indianapolis being a blue city but a red state. So where it's like, yeah, Brent Terhune plays the part well because he's surrounded by those guys. So
what was it like in that Indiana comedy scene growing up? Who were the guys you started out with? Like, what was your classic comic that you started out with?
Me and Brent Terhune actually were the young guys. We were both 19 to 20-ish. We couldn't go in the bars. We'd be waiting outside the back to go in, do our 5 minutes, and then get the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I'm trying to think. Like I said, Miss Pat, I think, had just moved to Indianapolis. And then they had another club open up, Morty's, and they had a non-compete clause. So
that's everything.
It was like an open relationship, and then one girlfriend cares and the other one doesn't give a fuck. Because Morty's didn't care, but Crackers would be like, if you perform there, and it's just like, dude, this is making us all better. Why do you care?
That's how they split it. You got the improv guys, and you got these guys over here, and everything else until you get out of the city and realize nobody cares.
It's so dumb because it's like there's not that much here to do. We were fighting for bowling alley spots, and I'd perform, maybe once or twice a month. And that was kind of it for about 2 or 3 years. And then, like I said, I started driving to Chicago, would do jokes and notes, open mic in Chicago, which was Lil Rel, D-Ray, all those guys that came through there. So it was some pretty heavy competition.
How did you do out there when you moved out there? How was your stand-up? Did you feel like...
I didn't move out there. I just used to drive.
I mean, like when you would drive out there, how were your jokes? Were they like battle tested? Or do you feel like you're stronger? Or
I did all right. I remember one time I like did pretty well. You know, a few people up front were laughing. There's always those people that aren't gonna be with you. Which I should mention. Jokes and notes. Their open mic was tough. Like it was the playoffs one year, and Shaq was there, like just hanging out at the open mic.
What, Shaq?
Crazy story. So Shaq, yeah, it was when Cleveland was playing Chicago. So it's in like 2010, and he's in Cleveland, you know, playing with LeBron, and they're in the playoffs. And random ass Wednesday open mic, but those open mics at Jokes and Notes used to be packed in Chicago. So I'm there trying to get on stage or whatever. Shaq comes in, which was funny. You'll remember the rap group Crucial Conflict.
What's up,
So
Doc?
they're there, and they're, you know, from Chicago, and they're in VIP. And then Shaq walks in, and you just see them standing up and moving. And this giant human being comes in and sits down with his entourage, and Crucial Conflict now has to go to regular seating. I think they just left, actually. Like, they were like, fuck that, we're out of here.
Who were the young comics you met in Chicago that were coming up, like when you would go visit? That you were
young comics in Chicago, shit, because it's hard to remember names. And then you're like, are any of these people still around?
Who's still around that you were coming up with? And you're just like, yeah.
Which, like I said, I remember the Chicago vets more than anything, because they kind of ran that room. So, like I said, you know, they'd have Little Rail on a Saturday closing out. You know, he's headlining because he's, you know, famous as fuck in Chicago by then, you know. And then like Bald Head Phillips, I damn near called this guy Marlon Randolph, but I forget his name. He's a chubby guy, though, light skin. You know, that's been over 10 years ago. So I've been in New York for 8 years now.
Those Chicago,
they do
together all over New York. Every time I meet a comic, Chicago. I was like, they got a mafia.
I'm a little jealous of them because, yeah, you're right. They stick together, and then Indianapolis is just like, look, you lucky if a motherfucker say hi to you or likes your Facebook post, you know. And we jock everything Chicago does. And it's just like, get your own style. We're always like chasing Chicago and Atlanta. And it's just like, dude, we're never going to build a scene like that, you know. But yeah.
Well, how old were you when you moved to New York?
I was, 26 when I moved to New York. So I did, you know, like 8 months or 10 months in Buffalo, New York. You know, I was just trying to move closer. So like my brother passed, and it was just like, how can I get the fuck out of Indianapolis right now? So I transferred. I was doing deliveries for Lowe's, and I transferred to Buffalo. And I would come out on the weekends and just like check out the scene. And then after coming out like 5 or 6 times, I'm like, yo, it's time for the big leagues. So yeah, I was pretty young when I got here. And, you know, it's a mental adjustment because older guys, I feel like I was the perfect age because I had like 6 or 7 years of experience. I kind of knew my way around on stage, and I kind of knew who I was. Where if you find some of these older guys are so locked in to being pros, they're like, well, can I feature? And the club's like, where's Showcase Club? There is no feature. What are you even talking about?
10 for 25.
Right. And I was, you know, lucky enough that even in those years where I was, you know, maybe just starting to feature, I wasn't set in my ways, you know, as a comic. So where it's like, no, I can do 3 minutes. You need me to do 3?
Right. And I feel like when you move to New York, it's like you can't either be stuck in your ways or just you have to adjust completely because the people you never would think got the juice.
Oh yeah. And you know, I get it.
For Jabuki one time, and he did something, and I was like, I gave him some gum. I was like, hey, here's some gum, man. Don't worry about it. And the next night he's on the Tonight Show. I said, oh, this the dude that was just at the.
Yeah, it's like that, you know, where back home, you know, I was telling somebody because I went back home recently, and it's like he was asking me the difference, and I'm like, the difference is in New York, you know, in Indiana doing comedy, you kind of know who's funny, and then it'll be like another year or 2 before a new crop of comics shows up because it's not like people are moving here to do it. Whereas in New York, you know, every week, 3 funny new people are showing up. And, you know, it becomes about other things like, do you have the heart? the 4 P's, what practice, patience, perseverance, prayer, all that shit, because you're going to need it. Being funny is the bare minimum in New York.
Yeah, who
It
you
starts
know,
with,
how well you.
yeah, and who you can wait to know, because so many people
Yeah.
here I've talked to, I'm like, yo, you got to figure out life. I've been, being a cabbie for, 7 years, right, 8 years now. And that's my day gig, 3 or 4 days a week. And other people are so focused on comedy that it's like, yo, you're not going to make money from comedy for a while. So
You don't got no health insurance. You don't got no anything else. But what? So a cabbie, is it like a taxi driver, or what's it?
yeah, it's a taxi driver. Like, I do
Oh,
yellow cab. I was kind of the last of the Mohegans because I got out here right before Sandy. There was no Uber. Uber doesn't come for like a year or two. And then now Uber's popping, and you meet a lot of comics now that do Uber and different stuff because it's flexible.
how has Uber and Lyft affected the cabbie industry?
It's created more competition, which, like I said, I look at everything like, hey, is the glass half full or half empty? And it's like, be happy you got a fucking glass, because it's like, yo, they made my car cheaper, if that makes sense.
Nah, break
So
that down. So people can ride a cab for cheaper.
not that you can ride a cab for cheaper, I can pay less for my car now. Like, they used to charge us, by shifts. So they would charge us like, $150 per shift when I first got out here, right? Because there was no Uber, there was no competition. So it's like our way or the highway. And they were like mean, the garage guys that own the cars were mean, fuck you, pay me was kind of their mentality. You're late, pay me. You didn't fill the gas all the way up, fuck you, pay me. And now they're practically begging us, like, please drive for me. I give you a good deal. It's gone from 150 to 100. So
Well,
I'm like, yo,
break that down like as a cabbie. So is your car is it literally a yellow cab? You had to buy that car
yeah,
in yellow, or you're renting someone?
yeah.
So that's your personal.
I lease. It's not a personal, and
Oh,
then I have partners. But when I first got out here, I was leasing from a garage, and the garage was really mean.
okay.
Get here at 5 a.m. We may or may not have a car for you. If we do have a car, it's gonna be the worst fucking car we got in this whole garage.
Hmm.
The price is 150. Don't argue with me about that. Tip me. And then, like like a year ago, I was trying to make some extra money. I went back to the same garage, 7 years later, and they're like, "Oh, please come in. Here's a bottle of water. Thanks for coming in. Oh, it's not 150 anymore. It's 110. But if you need it to be 90, let us know. It can be 90." And it's just like, see, Uber fucking helped,
So
because
when you
they
get
were
inside the
basically
cab,
had a monopoly, basically.
but when you get inside the cab, the clock ticks, right? The clock ticks, and however out, do you have a set hours to drive, or how does
Yeah, those yellow cab shifts are 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So
12 hours?
yeah, 12 hours. But it's not as rough as it sounds like, because you're kind of your own boss, so you're kind of going at your own pace. And then once you make your money and once you pay their money, it's like, well, how much do you need, basically? And that's kind of how you have to hustle. But now that I have partners, it's like, well, I no more waking up at 5 a.m. Technically, my shift starts at 5 a.m., but it's like, nah, I might have been out last night doing a whole bunch of spots. So I might sleep till 7 o'clock and then start at 7.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of all up to me, because it's not like, once I pay that set price, it's like, okay, after I pay them their $100, it's all up to me and how much I feel like I need to make.
So you paid $100. It comes out of your cash, or like at the end they just take it?
Well, everybody's mostly using cards now. So
Oh, okay. So
mostly they pay you out at the end of the week, the difference of like, oh, okay, we owe you $300. Or sometimes it's weird and it's like, oh, I owe you $50. And it's like, here, because mostly we keep all the cash, because the credit, goes through a company. So it goes to the company first, and then we get it back if it's more than what we owe for the week.
okay. How was the pandemic hit the cab industry? People
It's horrible. Nobody's going to work. And that's kind of the whole game in New York, right? You got tourists and then everyone's going to work. So right now it's horrible, but still been able to get out there a few days a week and make a little something, but people are barely going anywhere. But lucky for me, everybody's at least nice and they're tipping well. So
that's good. I appreciate it.
Plus, I just need to get out the house, be in the house all day. It's like people need purpose, right?
Right. Okay.
Where it's like, yo, you'll go insane without it.
We do this thing on the podcast. It's called the hill questions. So I'm going to ask these questions. They're open-ended questions. You can answer however you want to. If it takes a long time. You ready?
Mm-hmm. All
right. Question number 1 is, do you believe in God?
Yeah, definitely. Better believe in something right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite person, like in the Bible or anything else? Like a favorite person or character?
Well, I better say Jesus, right? I mean, that's
some
the
people
easy
say
answer.
other. I've been getting other answers. Some people say Mary. Some people say other answers.
Some people like, yo, the devil. They say the devil a lot. It's like the people that relate to Thanos.
Hey,
I'm like, this guy makes sense.
When's the last time you had a nightmare?
Nightmare. You know what's crazy during this pandemic? I've been having them a lot, and I don't know why really. But it's just like, yeah, man. I think it's because my mind has become restless.
What is it like?
They're always really weird things that it's like, why was I so afraid of that? I don't even remember it. Well, one was about the cops, which is like, I know why I was afraid of that.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been harassed by a cop before? Yeah,
man. I actually slammed like an undercover. It's a long story, man. Like, I'll tell you the short of it. He told me to leave, and I was like, dude, it was my sister's car. She had her tire was flat, so I was trying to help her. It's like 2 a.m. on the side of a road in Indianapolis, and I'm trying to help her change the tire. I see a car behind her car. I'm thinking it's a guy trying to help her.
Okay.
And, I get out the car and he's like, leave. And I'm like, what? He's like, it's an investigation. Now, again, it's 2 a.m. So I'm not really understanding. All I know is she called me to help her. So I'm kind of going back and forth with him because I'm like, dude, 2 a.m. This is my little sister. I don't really know what the investigation thing's about. Her tire's flat. He goes, you need to get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. Finally, I go, okay. I'm leaving. I go to grab my car handle. He jumps on my back. Now, naturally, I bend down, because I feel something on my back. I just bend down. He goes flying across my back like suplex style. It's snowing. So he's trying to get up. As he's trying to get up really fast, he falls. And I go, dude, what the fuck? Now he's yelling, get on the ground, get on the ground. I'm a cop. And he's like, and I'm like, well, where the fuck is your badge? And I'm like, why'd you make me do that? You told me to leave and then you jumped on me. So I'm like kind of hysterical. And I'm like, dude, I'm not getting on the fucking ground. It's snowing, and I'm more of asking him questions at this point. Like, you're the one on the ground.
Right.
I just tried to do what you told me to do, which was leave. And when I tried to leave, you jumped on my back. So I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I should listen to you at this point. You're being weird. My sister's here. I'm more afraid of what my mother's going to do to me for leaving her on the side of the road with you. So like I said, I started asking him questions once he was on the ground. I'm like, dude, where's your badge? Where's your gun? Like, you're 5. If I'm not a big guy, I wouldn't say I'm small. I got wide shoulders or whatever. This dude was like 5'1", and just kind of goofy. Like I said, he was an undercover. He wasn't he wasn't even an undercover later when we got the police report, because they tried to give my sister a DUI. I figured out that he was, on his way home. So he was off duty,
right.
And here she is, a young black girl, 5 foot, all of 5 foot, and 100-something pounds. And she's trying to change a flat tire, and you can't even pull up and help her change that tire. You're being a dickhead, and trying to investigate her. So anyway, as he's on the ground yelling, get on the ground, and it's snowing and he's trying to get up, I'm like, where's your badge? Where's your gun? Like, I'm mad because he made me slam him, basically. I'm like, dude, That's
Did
a
he have
natural
he had no
reflex.
gun the whole time?
No. So another cop car pulls up, and it's a real cop car because his wasn't a cop car because he was off duty. Now, as they get out the car, they're like, get on the ground. And now I'm like, all right, let me get the fuck on the ground. I don't need that, bullshit narrative of, he was resisting arrest. And it's just like, all right, fuck it. It's snowing. I guess I'll get on my fucking knees. Long story short, they cuffed me. They searched my car. And my sister said half the police report, well, 3/4 of it was all about me. And of course they lied, He was belligerent. He was aggressive. And it's like, dude, I did what you told me to do. You were weird.
So when you go to the station, what happens when you get to the station? You had to get
bail?
bail?
Oh, they didn't take me to the station. They let me go. But like I said, it just became a whole lot that wasn't needed, for a flat tire. It was just kind of silly. And I have a white friend, Indiana, who has 3 DUIs, and he told me a story about, like my sister was barely over the limit. Like, and I honestly think they just charged her because of me.
Right.
And it was just like a whole thing. But my friend told me, dude, I was drunk and they just snatched my keys out and told me, call somebody and fucking come get you and leave this car here. So,
Well, of course it's gonna be that.
And he was fucked up. Like I said, he already has 3 DUIs. So it's just like, yeah, man, completely different story when it's us.
I think that a lot of people don't realize, like, Minneapolis is not too far. It's a couple states away, but it's like
right. It's in the Midwest.
That Midwest, people don't realize, like, yeah, the Midwest. I know it's not like the South, but it's kind of is. Those cornfields, it's like still.
Oh yeah, like I said, it's debated whether or not the Klan was invented in Indiana or in Tennessee, but whatever the case, it's like, yeah, like you're saying, to where it's like, even the difference down south, having lived in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, where it's like, if you notice in the South, it's not even cops, it's just random vigilantes, George Zimmerman, this guy that did that to Ahmaud, where it's like, or Ahmed, where it's just like, yo, I think that's the difference, really. In the North, it's the cops. In the South, it's just any random guy. But and the cops.
In the South, in the South, it's just like most of the people. Like I remember in my neighborhood in Florida, there's a cop in the neighborhood, but we all know who he is. So he knows the neighbor, and he like introduces himself, and we realize like, okay, when he comes over here, it's like a common. Not a common respect, but I feel like, down south, you get you probably got it, those speeches about the cop. Your dad probably talked to you like, this is how you talk to a cop. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. And like, even when you're wrong, you need to do this and do this. So it's just like when people
talk. In general, they're more polite because it's the South. So it's, that polite until it's overt racism and overt force.
Yeah.
Then that becomes a whole thing where even in the Midwest, it's not even polite. It's just like deceptive, full throttle aggression from cops, whereas, like I said, in the South, at least, like you're saying, there is some form of like, them being somewhat decent up front, because obviously on the back end, it's like Sandra Bland exists. So it's like, and that was Texas. So where was the hospitality there?
Right. And I think there's good and good cops and bad cops, but I think a lot of it is that I think just in the general down south, people talk about the racism is more open, so what it is. You're not blindsided by where you are. So you're already on the front of saying that, all right, I need to be on this, I need to be on that. I know what it is, but up in New York, you don't know what it is. You don't know.
Yes, the liberal,
right.
It's the liberal lie, That's what was so weird the other day about, what was the lady, Amy Cooper, and the Christian Cooper guy in Central Park. It was like, she votes for what people think is the right thing. And that's why I'm not voting, because it's like, it has nothing to do with voting, She's calling the cops on him. And then at the same time, within the same country, George Floyd is being murdered by a cop. And she thinks nothing is wrong with her calling the cops on a black guy and yelling at him, reminding him that he was black every 3 seconds as she's calling him.
And people are like, look how he probably looks scary. I was like, look how nerdy this dude was a Marvel executive.
Yeah, but that's what's crazy. Like I was talking to another comic earlier. I was talking to Nico White, and we were just laughing about how, with us as black men, and I even hate it a little because I'm in entertainment, where it's like there's no middle ground for them, You're either Will Smith or you're a thug who deserves to be choked to death on camera by cops whose salaries are paid with taxpayer dollars. And it's just like, dude,
I was saying
you
this.
guys don't have any in between.
And I think it's that the in-betweens are the people who I thought I was telling my boy this. I was like, it's so hard working and being the nice person because you don't have a chance to be who yourself. Every black person assimilates to their job, assimilates because you can't be this. You can't talk about how you really feel. You scare people at work, you know.
Right.
Like
And they don't get
I
it,
sing to not think about the things that I'm about to deal with. I joke around, so I know like I don't want to talk about this at my job.
Right.
People are
And
really posting right
comedy's
now.
almost a relief.
And relief, like how many comics are
Yeah, because it's just like the people that need to.
Go ahead, yeah.
Right. It's like the people that need to learn the lessons aren't learning the lessons. The people that need to speak up aren't speaking, and we're tired of speaking. So it's just like, yo, I'm about to burn this fucking target to the ground, and who cares? You care more about the effect than you do the cause. Then you're part of the problem. So where it's like, let's talk about why they're burning the target to the ground. Would they burn it if you weren't choking black people to death? And then, like I said, all these moot points and these arguing points. Like, look, man, I'm 33. I saw Rodney King when I was 5. And I knew right then, like, oh, shit, what am I in for?
And I think that a lot of people don't realize, like, this country is bent off riots. The Boston Tea Party was a riot. Like, you got to think, like, what is
Right.
patriotism or terrorism? Like, it's all the same thing. I was like, when a
Like,
people
violence is the only thing they respect,
and it's
when
just, you start questioning not questioning your pigment, but as I was telling my lady, I was like, it's like this all over the world. I was like, every country, the lower class people are the people.
Well, I'll tell you one, and what really annoys me, especially within comedy, being that we're all, what's the word I want to use? Comedy's kind of a melting pot. We're all kind of from different worlds, we're all different colors, we're all different backgrounds of religion and education. But when I first moved to New York, when did I get here? Around 2012, right before Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
I got in a huge thing with another black comic over white women. I was joking about Caitlyn Jenner, and then at an open mic, and me and him got in a huge argument. Then he decides, weeks later, I'm on Facebook, talking to somebody about, I don't even know what incident it was at the time, but I'm halfway laughing because I'm just like, dude, white women aren't oppressed in America. The patriarchy is their fathers and their brothers. And this guy, another black guy, saw me say that. And then that became a post about, well, this Phil Hunt guy hates women and you guys need to be on high alert. And it's just like, dude, we're on the same team, A, and B, like, how is that hating women? And that's what I'm saying. Like, right now, with the Amy Cooper situations and different stuff, everybody is just now catching up to where I was then. It's like, look, a lot of unfair shit happens to you. That is true, but it's nothing like, Ahmaud Arbery or these cops choking us out where it's like, that's on camera. He's dead. There's a gun. There's no chance anyone's lying.
Right.
Nobody has an ulterior motive. Yes, you're inconvenienced a lot, with the whole Karen thing. That it's just like, I'd rather be getting called Karen than getting the knee in my neck.
And I think it's, there are allies and everything else. I think it's just some people don't know how to support black people. It's tough. Some people, if you're not around black people like that, you don't know what to say. You don't know anything else. So people are just like, yo, ask.
Right. Well, I'd rather silence than a bunch of stupid argument points that it's just like, we explained that to you when Rodney King happened. Are we still having to have the same argument, And that's really what I see is, all these, what do I want to say, like these side arguments that like kind of divert from the real argument or the real points being made, to where even people are bringing up black on black crime. It's like, that guy in Flint, Michigan, that security guard, remember the woman spit in his face, the black woman spit in his face.
Yeah.
and he got killed, and then they got arrested. So it's like, we're 70% of the prison population, black men. And so to have an argument about black on black crime, it's like, well, how do you think we're 70% of the prison population? One is Joe Biden, and two is black on black crime. Like, yes, because we get punished.
Violence is going to happen in your own neighborhood. First time you're ever going to get a fight is going to be in your own neighborhood, of course. That's where the violence is going to be, wherever your home is.
Right. Polar bears kill polar bears. Black bears.
Australia, yeah.
Black bears kill black bears, and polar bears kill polar bears because they live next to each other. So, right. But the black on black argument, it gets deeper because it's like, okay, well, we're only 12% of the population. Can we even afford to kill 70%? But I feel like that's a conversation that's not for right now. It's like, not right now.
Well, I think that people got to realize that, yeah, there's black on black crime, but people don't forget we're the smallest percentage of black people in countries, but we have the loudest voice. So when I say that,
right,
people don't understand, like Brazil, India, there's a whole bunch of oppressed black people that have no voice at all.
Well, yeah, it gets deep, and that's why I said, I had to argue with another black dude over, 6 Facebook posts, and it's just like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. White women are the number one benefactor of affirmative action. Like, if you think that they're they're in second place, and like, yes, a lot of shit happens to them, but it's just like, dude, it fails in comparison. Like, I don't care to have this argument. It's such to me, a diversion from the real issues that go on, and even when they argue about the patriarchy, it's like, well, Amy Cooper was about to access the patriarchy on Christian Cooper. So,
Yeah, I think I think New Yorkers don't understand, because in the South, everyone lives with each other. So you're going to have these dialogues because you're forced to live. Y'all play on the same football team. Y'all got to say something to each other.
Yeah.
New York,
I think the South's a little more open.
Here, put the black people over here, put these other people
right.
Over here. You guys meet on the train. That's where you're.
Harlem's Harlem. Like, I even laugh as I look at the statue of Frederick Douglass on 110th.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, if we really don't live in a post-racial society, why don't you make Frederick Douglass Avenue in the middle of Midtown Manhattan? Like, really?
Like Harriet Tubman statue over there.
Yeah, to where it's like, come on, man. They got Confucius in the middle of Chinatown, and it's just like,
they want people to let them know where they are.
Yeah, it's basically segregation, which is kind of funny. That's what he fought against.
That's why I think like New York is very just like separate the people.
A friend of mine described it perfectly. He said they'll vote for your interests, but still don't want you in their neighborhood. And it's like, yeah, pretty much that part.
So I think a lot of it has to do with British racism. A lot of people don't think about how the British got all these indentured servants. They brought them over they brought them all over to England, and they had a problem. They're like, what happens if all these people unite? What if the Indians get with the black people or the Jamaicans? So they said, all right, Jamaicans, you guys stay on that side. The Nigerians over there. And they put like friction. They would always like make them fight. They would like blame up. They told Indian people, you're better than black people. Like Gandhi was writing stuff like that. Like when his little scrolls, he was writing, well, I'm not this. I'm Indian. I'm not this. It was like, where do you think?
Yeah, he was like, look, there is no POC. It's just me.
Right. So like, yeah. They do that so much of just like divide and conquer. Just like they don't want anybody to unite.
Right.
And then like when I was the British black people talking about us, like, you guys are so united in America. I was like, really? They're like, yeah. They're like, here, like, I'm Grenadian. I'm this. I'm this. I'm that. I'm that.
Yeah, and then all the cops are just like, you're all black and we don't give a shit. You're not white. So
there's some good. My friend's a cop. My friend's a cop. And he was telling me on the inside. He was just like, he's a cop, and he was saying how he goes, it's tough because it's a brotherhood. That's really what it is. You know what I mean? He's like that first 2 months, nobody sees them. They're drowned together. They're beaten up together. He's like, yo, it's a brotherhood. So it's like it's hard to go against the brotherhood. You want to stand up, but at the same time, he said there's so much stuff you don't see as cops. like someone smashing through your window or like looking over your shoulder and stuff. It's a sticky situation.
Right, but it's just like Christopher Dorner. I don't know if you remember him. He spoke out against it, and he was like, "Yo, they're dragging black people, on the LAPD, and then I have to be their partner, and they have to get back in the car." And basically, he was saying that they were turning a blind eye, and they,
Right.
we still aren't sure if Christopher Dorner even did what they said he did, and they burned him up on national television, for telling the truth. So for me, I don't see why, anybody black would really join the cops. I mean, I guess it's a steady income, but I don't think it's worth the mental price of having to see your people be treated as less than all the time. And,
Well, back in the day, it was different. Back in the day, the cops you were sanctioned to where your neighborhood was. So they had like in Chinatown, there's different police officers over there. Sometimes they won't talk to you. I think as a black person, you think about stability, you think about that. And my friend told me, he's like, he always wanted to be a cop growing up, always.
Yeah. Malik Yoba made it look pretty good on New York Undercover, but other than that, like I said, I saw Rodney King when I was 5, and then, you see a guy get hit, 79 times or whatever it was, and then none of these motherfuckers are guilty. Like, not even the nightstick goes to jail. And it's just like, well, fuck this whole thing. So yeah, I think I had that whole cops is good people thing shattered pretty early, at
I think
5 years old.
I think it's just a distrust in our community, rightfully so.
What's even crazier than that is, like, if you remember, like, the Milwaukee cop, the commissioner or whatever, is black, and even in Baltimore where they killed Freddie Gray, he's black. And I'm just like, I don't know why you would take that job, because they like to use it, as a diversion. Well, we can't be racist because the head of us is black. And it's like, what we're saying is systematically, not each and every one of you is racist, but this whole system is racist.
Yeah, it's sometimes people want to change from the inside, I think there are some people, I know it doesn't seem possible, but the only thing we got in this country is hope, man. I
get it. I get how they get that idea, but like I said, when I, seen that at 5, and then Christopher Dorner, even that, like I said, he was trying to snitch on the cops basically and tell about their fucked up practices, and they killed him on national TV. So it's like, well, so much for that idea. I just think it needs to be overthrown. And even when we talk about, the political system, I think someone spoke up recently and said it needs to be more than a 2-party system. I think it was, what is her name? I almost said Asada Shakur, but not her. It was a black woman, though. I forget what her name is, but
that's how it
like,
is. There's like 3 parties.
Yeah, it needs to be a 3rd party. And a lot of these systems are old. It's like, we don't drive the same cars anymore, Cops were born out of slave catchers, That's the whole thing, How do we control, Reconstruction in America after slavery? How do we control these newly freed slaves, basically? And that's where cops come from. So if you understand that idea, then what they do makes perfect sense. It's like, oh, you're basically searching and destroying it. Like, I can't think of, as a grown man, 33-year-old black man who pays taxes and who goes to work almost every day, I can't think of a single fucking reason why I would ever call a cop. And that's a problem.
You never called
no criminal record, no nothing. Never. And I never will, I can't think of a single reason why.
You call the ambulance?
Never called them either. Knock on wood, I've been lucky. I'm in good shape. I'm laying off the seasoning salt, like the Surgeon General said. Right.
This is the last 2 questions. Do you believe in soulmates?
Nah.
No? Nobody special in your life?
Nah, I don't. Not to say I don't have anyone special in my life, but just that I think that's like a concept like good and bad, right? Where, like, as a child, yeah, like, oh, wow, good and bad. But as you get older, it's like, no, you're never gonna meet the perfect match for you. You're gonna meet someone who's close. And I think people too often, they identify it as, oh, well, I'm not settling. And it's like, the answer is not settling.
Right.
My parents understood compromise, My parents were married for 25 years. Compromise is the word. And they had 5 kids, where it's like, now we're too idealistic. We're like, oh, they've got to look like this. They got to walk like that. They got to have this education level. And it's like, nah, that's not going to happen. I know 30-year-old women who are waiting for Usher. And it's like, you're a nurse. Why would Usher ever date a nurse? And vice versa, I know dudes that are like, right. I know dudes that are garbage men. And they're like, Halle Berry's single. And it's like, she's never going to meet you. Like, it's not going to happen unless you are a seat filler for like the Oscars and you just happen to meet her. But you guys are in 2 different tax brackets. So the answer is compromise. And that's why I don't believe in soulmates, because I'm like, nah, everyone that I know that's happily married has had to compromise. And if that was their soulmate, they wouldn't have had to compromise.
All right. What do you think happens when you die?
Oh, man. I wish I knew, man.
And this is
I really don't know. I never really thought about that. That's an interesting ass question, man. Hopefully we go off to heaven and there's no cops and no rent, and no disease, We can do what we want with the angels, have a good time. One big ass party, I hope. But who knows?
This is the last one before we wrap it up. This is what is like a rapid fire. I'm going to keep saying, who are you? And the goal is to go beyond yourself. You know what I mean? So, who are you? Who are you? And you just do it, whatever comes to your mind until we stop.
Okay.
You ready? All right.
Yep.
Who are you?
Who am I? And then I say what to that?
So ask me. Just keep asking me, who are you?
Oh, who are you?
Jared Waters.
Who are you?
Stand-up comic.
Who are you?
Southerner, like that. So it keeps going.
Ah, got you. So it's like the Twitter bio.
Right. You guess it's
Mother,
to go beyond
he him.
Name. Right.
Got you.
You ready? Who are you?
Phil Hunt.
Who are you?
A comedian.
Who are you?
Stand-up comedian.
Who are you?
Not an improv comedian.
Who are you?
A stand-up comedian who sometimes sits down.
Who are you?
A stand-up comedian who's also a son.
Who are you?
Who's also a brother.
Who are you?
A black man in America.
Who are you?
Now it's getting tricky. See, a taxpayer.
Who are
a
you?
1040 easy taxpayer.
Who are you?
A dependent, sometimes for the right price. If you give me back half.
Who are you?
A propagandist.
When it's all said and done, when they write your story, what do you want them to say about you?
A legend. And he was funny. And he made the world a better place through laughter. It's the best medicine next to Oxycontin.
It's in the Bible. That's what the Bible said. Laughter is like a dose of medicine.
Big facts. You have to send me that verse.
I'll send it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the podcast, One Man, One True Hill. We got Phil Hunt. How can they find you, Phil?
Find me on all social media platforms at I am Phil Hunt. PHILHUNT. Go to my website, funnyphil.com.
Funnyphil.com. All right, my brother. Stay safe in this pandemic, man.
Hey, you too. Mask up.
Live on the podcast on One Man, One Tree, One Hill. Say what up to the people. This is when I see black excellence, man. It's Dave Chappelle, Michael Che, Lauren Michaels, Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy, all sitting at the table. I said, yo, Eddie, Mr. Murphy, I just want to say, man, you the GOAT, man. And you're the coldest nigga that ever walked the face of the earth.
And I said, and I'll be the next Jamar Neighbors. Yeah. And she was up like, I know that's right.
gotta break that thing over. She wants it private, but y'all not even together right now.
So we haven't spoken about anything but the cat for at least 2 months.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the podcast. My name is Jared Waters, and I'll catch you next time. Like, subscribe, rate the podcast. Have a wonderful night, wonderful day, whatever you're listening to. I'll see you soon.